Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Let's get on to part two of climate change in China and the limits of Chinese power. Right? We'll just pick it up from where we left yesterday so that we don't lose time and I have a long way to cover. Yeah, yesterday we did speak of flooding, droughts, the south north water transfer. Uh, And then we spoke about the flooding and coastal typhoons which have occurred over the past 4 years from 2020 to 22, 23, and 24. Today we'll start with the rest. I'll go through a bit quicker because you're in the frame to understand what I'm trying to put across. Okay, let's start talking of food security, desertification, and deforestation. No, we would all heard that China wants to ensure food security and all that, and that's the top goal of Xi Jinping and the CCP. As per Xi Jinping, Chinese people's rice bowls must always be held firmly in our hands with Chinese grains in them. Okay, they want it in their hands with Chinese grains, not imported. At this point of time, they import a lot of grains. And this is the guiding principle of China's agricultural policy. Right. If that be so, China has been aggressive in expanding its agricultural base and to ensure its food security. One of the things it has done is turn forests into farmland. And that's what these, articles say. Right, sorry. And that's what these articles say. Right? And they've done aggressive crop expansion, land use crackdowns. So land taken for something else. No, it has to go back to agriculture and things like that. Right? They've done a lot of farmland reclamation. Okay. And they've also gone and reclaimed hillsides. In fact, last year, they uh, deforested very surprisingly, or rather otherwise, they deforested hillsides and planted seeds on them and carried out farming. And then the coastal typhoons came, and this is what happened. One minute. This is giving me a little bit of a problem. So okay. All the farming on strip lands, hills, just got washed away. As simple as that. Surprising as it seems, they did. It's just a dead end, right? So in the end, they end up without forests and without farms in their enterprise, which they if Xi Jinping tells something karna hi hai. So that's what. Okay, but then something else happened in May in 23 last year. Uh, the coastal typhoons came ahead of time, much before the wheat crop came to the cutting season, right? So the wet wheat, it put the entire, rather the wetness which prevailed all around, put the entire wheat crop at risk. That's what they say. This was May 23. China's soaking wet wheat faces more weekend rain. And it was an extended period of rain. And then wheat crops face unprecedented risks. That's how it happened. This all happened in May 23. They tried to justify it by saying, no, no, this happens everywhere. It's not for us, but it happened only to them, right? And they lost millions of tons of wheat just before the harvest, right? Now, this was in June, May, June. This is how it happened. And then they went out all out harvesting before time so that they could limit the damage. That means you're cutting prematurely ripe crops. So that has its implications. So it was quite a washout last year, right? And then they had to dip into their reserves, which they have. Let's give them the credit. They have a lot of reserves. But the fact is that they tried deforestation, they on hillsides and planting on hillsides, and it failed. And they're going against nature completely. And that's the communist way in many cases, doing things in a hurry and regret at leisure. And then the rains hit them unseasonally. The rains hit them unseasonally for two effects. One, their farmland expansion scheme got, I wouldn't say finished off. I don't know where it is, but degraded, and it put their wheat crops at risk. And then last year, the other factor, simultaneously, when the rain was hitting, there were places in China which were going through droughts and heat waves and desertification. They have this Tanger Desert, which is on the edge of the North China plain, and that started expanding. And it's been expanding for a long time, but last year it was pronounced. You look at this. It took Xi Jinping to call for fighting desertification. And there's a kind of dust clouds which hang around. And this is not the only article which came. Even Beijing turned yellow due to dust storms. We keep thinking of Delhi, smog, all that. No, it happens in Beijing also. Just see what he says. It turns sky to yellow and sun to blue. So they've had huge problems of desertification, expanding deserts. So on the south, you have floods, premature crop cutting, all that. In the north, you have deserts and desertification. So it's not an easy future for China. Okay. Again, this was a little later. Northern China still suffering under worst sandstorms in a decade. So problems, and problems. So this is yet another facet of the climate change effects which China has faced just in 4 years. So you're looking at floods, you're looking at droughts in the same area, you're looking at floods in one area and sandstorms in another area, and things like that, which I had not heard of earlier. Okay. Then this year, something funny happened. This was just last month. There were tidal waves, unexplained tidal waves, right? And this is what it said. This is from South China Morning Post headline. China hit by sudden rise of sea water level never seen in history. Okay? Okay. They don't know what caused this. It was a record breaking tidal event. Which are the areas affected? That complete area which I've shown in, the circle was affected. So have a look at it with a little closer. That's the area which got affected. Okay, huge. And what was this tidal wave all about? That tidal wave was just 1 meter of water going in, as much as 100 plus kilometers. That's the level. If you look at it, these were the areas which were definitely affected. Tianjin, Tangshan, Panjin, and Dalian. Now, just to give you an idea, the distance between the coast of, that is the coast, and Tianjin is over 120 kilometers. Just think, 120 kilometers if seawater has gone in. just about 1 meter or so. Okay, have a look at this. This is what came out. This is the tweet which came out, and this is the video which came out about water. And this is, yeah, this is in this place called Panjin. Where is Panjin? We'll have a look at it again. This is Panjin. More than 100 kilometers inland, it got inundated. And this is a thing from China. You see the date. The date is, okay, 21/10/24, last month, less than a month back. So that's what it was. We'll leave Yellow River, we'll get to Yellow River. But the point is that just think, if for 100 kilometers inland seawater comes, what will happen? And that entire coast. Will it happen next year? I don't know. But if you see the kind of events which are happening, what will be the effect? If seawater increases 100 kilometers, that means a 100-kilometer belt of the Bohai coast, the agriculture is zero for the next 2 to 3 years at least, till desalination takes place. Ask me and believe me. Some of my relatives have land of the Bay of Bengal coast in Andhra. They say every time there's a tidal wave and the sea comes in, our land goes fallow. For the next 2 to 3 years, that land where sea water is increased, we have to do alternate cropping and things like that. Just think what's happening in China. And the area which has been inundated is huge. Okay? Okay. Now we'll talk of Yellow River. Yellow River is called the sorrow of China. And it's yellow because it comes from the lowest plateau where there is fine sediment which comes, it takes the whole thing. Right? And this is the way it flows. It's something like Brahmaputra. It's got small embankments, high force, which breaks the embankment and it overflows. And one of the reasons why it overflows is the sediment. The sediment in the river keeps settling on the riverbed, raises the riverbed. So if you build an embankment, soon around that embankment, a lot of mud comes. The embankment is irrelevant after that because the riverbed has risen. The river changes course. That's how it is. Okay. It's China's sorrow. It overflows its banks and causes devastating floods. Millions have lost their lives as mass destruction of property. This is historical. It's not something which is discovered now. That is why this Yellow River, despite having a lot of water, leaves the north dry. And that's why they have to take water from the south to the north, which I showed you yesterday. Okay, it collects loess. Loess is a sand. It's a yellow sediment which settles on its bed. This sediment forms a very thick layer and water levels rise until it breaks the banks, causing flooding. This is perennial. Every year it happens. Now, efforts have been made by China to find a solution to the Yellow River problem. but they've been futile. Why? Because it takes 10 to 20 times more sediment than a normal river. Okay, all the dams which have been built on this river, they built a lot of dams so that in the dam they could arrest the sand and only you know normal water goes through. But what has happened is, they have a it's a imaginative kind of a system. They have water in the dams, and then they release water from the dams in a flush. It's like a flush, and they keep flushing the river. But what has happened over a period of time is the dams have collected this sediment. How do you flush the dam? So, in the absence of any logical way of flushing the dam, their whole system is now at risk. And if that is at risk, the flooding in Yellow River will increase. They can't build more dams. Okay, that's the thing. Dams no longer a suitable way to manage the river because they reduce the ability to transport sediment by trapping most of it in their reservoirs. And those reservoirs are full. Once the reservoirs are full, they don't have water to send it down the river to flush it. So if that doesn't happen, back to flooding. So that system which the Chinese Communist Party started in the last century is now the cycle is finishing. It might last another 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, but after that, what? And none of this, what I'm saying, is going to happen immediately. It's going to be time because it goes largely unnoticed. Okay, this is the Yellow River. Have a look at it. How it from one of the dams, how they let water go, and so that they can flush the river downstream. And it goes with great force, right? And it's impressive to look at, but the effects are pretty bad when you go. Okay, and it's prone to flooding, and you see a whole lot of articles of Yellow River on the net, and especially in Chinese writing itself. Okay, the next problem China has is their hydropower. Sichuan province has got the maximum. Sichuan and Yunnan have the maximum amount of hydropower projects. In the past 3 years, they've been having droughts. If they have droughts, they can't produce hydropower and give it to all their industrial bases. See the connectivity of the dots on this map. Have a look at it a little closer. Okay, the dots on this map represent the hydropower projects from where power is transmitted far and wide. And that has been having problems. Okay, right. In June 23, it was very clear, during the drought, this is not the 22 drought, the next year also there was drought. This is the headline. China's economic recovery faces challenging summer as hydropower producers sizzles. So they have no electricity, right? The Yunnan province, which is completely hydropower reliant, could not generate electricity because there is no water. And in 23, rainfall was down in Yunnan by 60% in January to April. So you correlate it back. Yunnan gets water from. Let me take you back. You see, this is Yunnan, and Yunnan gets water from Tibet. So it goes back to Tibet, so which we'll talk of later. Okay, so and Jan to April is the lean season, and that's when they didn't have electricity. So if they don't have electricity, their economy gets hit because their industry gets hit. Okay, if you think that was on 23, 24 also they had the same problem. This is the article of 24. Deadly flooding downstream in Guangdong province and extreme drought upstream in hydropower hub of Yunnan. Okay, now this is Guangdong and this is Yunnan. So downstream they had drought, downstream they had flooding, upstream they had drought. Just see how it's hitting them. And these are things which I have not heard of. I mean, I have not. I've been following. Okay. See again another headline which says extreme weather hits China, drought to some areas and flooding further south. So there is a major problem which is happening, which climate change is happening in China in inexplicable ways. These things don't happen with us. Either you're getting more rain, like in Chennai, we're getting more rain. We understand that. Okay, there are floods in up north. We understand that, or there are droughts. We understand that change. But here, one year it is in one way, in the other way. Here it is in the other way, and the complete south to north water transfer on which they are banking, that area itself doesn't have water. So where will they go and what will happen? These are the issues which one has to understand. Then there's this issue of subsidence. What is subsidence? Subsidence is sinking. As simple as that. Let's see this all. This is a very funny thing. This I didn't know happens in China. Or it happens in many places. I didn't know it's happening in China until last year. Okay. Yeah. Look at this. This is from Nature, but nearly half of China's major cities are sinking and some are rapidly sinking. How rapidly, we don't know. How many of them, there's only a guesstimate. But this is not something which is an outside view. This is an inside view from South China Sea, which says China's sinking big coastal cities at risk of floods as sea level rise, study warns. So they've done a study which says the city is sinking and sea levels are rising. Just think what's going to happen. And their complete coastal area is at risk. And the levels of sea level rise has already been shown in 2024 in the tidal waves. So you see the multiplicative effect, or I don't know, how do I call it? What I mean, I can't explain it. But these are facts. You can't ignore facts, can you? A large part of what's happening in China, I can't even explain. But what one can see is what is happening and what is the effect that we can estimate, and that's what I am trying to do. So what's happening here? Okay, again, have a look at it a little closer. You'll understand. You see this area. These chaps have done underground mining. They've done hydrocarbon extraction, not necessarily under the same city, but in vicinity. They've also done water extraction, groundwater extraction, as a result of which the ground below has become porous, and because of the weight, it started sinking. The weight of the buildings has made them sink. As the groundwater extraction has increased in China, the cities have started sinking. See, the funny thing about climate change and things like that is, it's not that, look, I've built my houses here, my cities in this place, and I'm safe if I don't do anything behind underneath me. No, it depends on what someone else is doing somewhere else. So the same government is extracting groundwater, it is extracting hydrocarbons and things like that somewhere else, doing mining extensively somewhere else. So rare earth nikalne ke liye you're taking, digging the whole world, maybe 100, 200, 300 kilometers away, but the effect is on the coast. That's what is happening. Okay. Then they built sponge cities. What is a sponge city? They spent nearly $140 billion in these sponge cities. So sponge cities are those cities which have drainage systems. So even if there's excess water or flooding from severe storms, which the east coast of China is prone to, these cities are supposed to take the water and drain them away, but they have failed. So here comes Chinese engineering. चाइना का माल चले तो चांद तक, नहीं तो रात तक. तो ये कहानी जो ऑफ स्मॉल सिटीज इज ऑल रात तक का माल. It's not, it's failing. Okay. The interesting part, read this. He says this is a mere drop in the bucket compared with what is needed to deal with the deluges climate change is dumping on the nation. And that's what they report. The the mainstream, I wouldn't say mainstream media, the national media and the mouthpiece media and the nationalist media don't talk of all this. These people still put up something. Even this, I feel, is just about 30% of the actuality. The actuality might be two and a half to three times more than this. So if you put that metric on whatever South China Morning Post is reporting or whatever others are getting, then you look at the whole thing, the whatever is happening in China is bleak from a environment and climate change and effect point of view. Okay. Then there's water pollution, river pollution. Huge. Again, all this is South China Morning Post reporting. Some they did 1 year back, some they did 2 years back. I've just collated it together and put it and to give you a holistic picture. Okay. This is what it says, water pollution in China's river. It says China is home to one of the world's greatest ecological challenges. How to stop the rampant deterioration of the country's river arteries. Rapid industrialization has led to unprecedented transformation of the environment. River fragmentation and pollution is affecting a vital resource and threatening thousands of species whose survival depend on river water. That is gone. Species to chodo, baki chodo. I'm looking at the power of China. So this is what their analysis says. Okay. Now look at this graphic. It's a very interesting graphic. If you look at the top, yeah, okay, this is absolutely suitable for human use, and this is unsuitable for human use. Now, if you look at it, and these are the list of rivers. In each river, from here onwards, red onwards, that it is unfit for human use. You see that major rivers are all now today slowly tending to become unfit for human use. Okay? So, this is increasing. And in some cases, it's very bad. Okay? It's not only that. You have a look at this map. This map tells you exactly which places there's extreme pollution, river pollution or water pollution. Okay? And you see again, this water pollution is overlapping the industrial belt of China, which is logical. And this is where their problems start. Now, why? They have cancer villages. Okay? They have cancer villages which they don't report. Right? The graphic below is, significant. Mercury level by basin. Now, Haiho is Pearl River, Yangtze, Yellow River, and Pearl River. The Haiho basin has the highest mercury levels in the world, while the Yellow River ranks the third. And Yangtze also, but Yangtze is lucky because the water in Yangtze is a little more than anything else, so the flush part is higher. So, if this is the case, and this is the case, there's no doubt, and they talk of cancer villages and all that, we don't know how many people in China are suffering from cancer due to this contamination and industrialization, and what will be the health effects, and that too in a declining population. So when you say declining population, they are not a standalone thing that old people have to be taken care of health wise. But what if old people have cancer because of their industrialization? The cost ramp up. So if the cost ramps up, what does the economy do? So you have to internally spend or look out externally. That's the point. If you understand this, the rest everything is in place. Okay, there are problems caused by groundwater. ये भी तो पढ़ो. I mean, it's a very mind-blowing thing. This is a 2016 report, and this is from China's government. It shows that more than 80% of the groundwater is unfit for drinking or daily use because of heavy contamination from surface water discharged by industrial plants and farming units. Okay, so this is the story of China. Their groundwater is not there, the rivers are polluted, and as Mr. Xi Jinping and company want to increase their productivity, new production forces, it's very easy to say robots, semiconductors, this, that, and all that, rare earths, but see the price which China is paying. It will all go to a tipping point one fine day, the way I look at it. Okay. Now, this is, I mean, I'll leave you to read it because it's there for you to read slowly whenever you want. Then there's this report called Gross Domestic Risk. There's a firm called XDI, which is Sydney based. They came out with a report 2 years back. Now, this, I didn't know of this report, nothing. So I saw this, uh, you know, post in South China Morning Post, which says half of China's GDP at risk of climate related disaster by 2050. This is what the Sydney based research firm XDI says. So it got me interested. Then I searched where this report is, read the report. I'll show you the salience of this report. Now, as per this, by 2050, this is by 2050, it could happen earlier also. And my way of looking at it is it will happen earlier. Now, two of China's largest subnational economies, Jiangsu and Shandong, they top the global ranking in first and second place for gross domestic climate risk. Over half the provinces in the global top 50 are in China. If the top 50 provinces or states are at risk from climate change or climate risk, okay, 25%, 25 of them are from China. And China has some 32, 33 provinces. And after, of course, it's there. After China, US has the highest, most high risk states with 18 in the top 100. And then India. We also have a problem. Let's not wish away our problem. Okay. Globally, most damage is caused by riverine and surface flooding or flooding combined with coastal inundation. So that's where China's complete east coast is under risk. Okay. This is the map of risk pattern. See the dark red portions. India, China, and USA stand out. But China stands out more. And next to that is it's India. We have to wake up. So when people say, let's industrialize this, that, and all that, look, you don't have to do all that. You don't want to be another China. That's what I keep saying. We don't have to be another China. If you are another China, you'll see the darkest red. Almost the entire country is in dark red of gross domestic risk. Now, these are the top 50 provinces at risk globally. Now, this you can't make it out, so I split it into four. You look at this. This is the first to 11th ranking. All Chinese provinces. And what is the damage of the risk? It's almost more than 100%. Okay? So, luckily, we have time. India has time. That's why I say we are very lucky. Our first state, Bihar, comes at 22. ओके, एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स उत्तर प्रदेश, ये तुम्हारा हमारा बीमारू स्टेट्स आते हैं इन दिस. बट देन चाइना टेक्स द केक. Except Florida, if you see till 18, it's all Chinese states which are at risk. Again, China dominates. You are further down the line, but you're there. You can't wish yourself away. Okay? So you have problems. It's better to go slow. It's better not to compete with China. So all those of you who feel no, we should be, oh, China का GDP उतना है, हमारा GDP इतना कम क्यों है? Oh, we should catch up with China. Think. Why do you think I keep saying we shouldn't be another China? We'll suffer the same fate as China is facing. Okay? And China has 29 states in the top 100, out of its 33. And 26 of these are in the top 50, which I said earlier. The Chinese provinces of Jiangsu, Shandong, Hebei, Guangdong, and Henan have the highest result for aggregate damage ratio in 2050. These are the coastal provinces. This is because these provinces are large, they host extensive industrial, trade, residential, and commercial development, and are exposed to coastal areas where sea level rise and riverine and surface flooding is prominent. So, would you like to be China? No. Okay, this is the sum total, right? What is the major issue here? Two top provinces, Jiangsu and Shandong. Okay, and they have an economy of over $1 trillion, which is at risk. Okay, Jiangsu is on the Yangtze River Delta down below. Okay, it has already had problems in the last 5 years. It has experienced extreme flooding and extreme drought. Now, here China is investing money. When China had money, it could invest. But when China had money, what did China done? It has invested. While it invested in infrastructure, it didn't invest in mitigating things for climate change. वो तो बहुत दूर है अभी. So they went into infrastructure, they went into military, they went into BRI, which they are losing. They have not taken care of things which are shaky like demography and climate change. Now they're suffering. And they can't get out of it. Okay. Shandong province is an Yellow River in the north and has 100 million people. It's China's third largest province by GDP. It is important agriculturally and industrially. That's also same Kahani. Now, Guangdong, which is in the Pearl River, down below, south. We saw early this year and late last year, there were floods in Guangdong. I showed you yesterday, bridges collapsing on Guangdong. Okay. In 2022, Guangdong had an estimated loss of over 1 billion USD. And this is going to increase. Okay. In fact, Guangdong is supposed to be the most economically vulnerable city in the world. And that's one of the hubs of industry, whatever you want. So this is what China faces. So if this is what China faces, there's a report. China's stagnating economy came out somewhere last year. Somewhere I read, and this is a reproduction. Climate change has exposed China's vulnerability and injected uncertainty. China needs an alternate model which is politically acceptable, because if it is not politically acceptable, it can't be implemented. And there is nothing on the horizon. Believe you me, there's nothing on the horizon. And when I talk day after tomorrow on Tibet, you'll understand why. Okay, this is a very interesting graphic. Okay, have a look at it with a little bigger. You know, the affected areas in million hectares from 1990 to 2018 is what is shown here. Okay, flooding in central and eastern China. If you see, over years, China has taken a lot of mitigating measures to reduce the affected area, but now that's also increasing. Okay, if you look at it, what is the direct economic loss? It's increasing in the same time period. And this is till 2018 only. Just put it together and you'll get the problem what China is facing. You think you're mitigating, you've done whatever you had to do to mitigating, but your losses have increased. And this is till 2018. And my guess today is that in the past 4 years, China has come to the edge. If not now, maybe another 2 years, 3 years, you'll see the ripple effect where China has to spend more on repairing its infrastructure, which is going to go. Because every year, if floods batter your infrastructure, someday they'll let go. That's the thing about China, which you have to understand. Okay, now we've gone through all this. You see the thing, except Tibet. Tibet will do day after tomorrow, because that's a very, very different and an interesting thing, and it has got military value. So, where does China end up with its power and all that nonsense? Its economy will be limited by the infrastructure damage which is happening. Its economy will be limited by the energy which is not being produced. Hydropower. Its economy will be limited by the crop damage and production. And when that happens, its food security is getting impeded. Okay? And what about health? It has to spend more on health. And you link it with demography, it's all webbed and interconnected. And nothing is positive in this. And it's my estimate, and I think it's not Einstein-like thinking. As time goes by, China will have to internalize. It has to look within. And this has to be seen with the fact there is going to be resource depletion, a declining demography, and global tensions. So does China have a way out? I don't know if those people who are saying that Chinese economy will stagnate have factored all these factors in. If you factor all these factors, which of climate change, then probably the entire story is even more grim. And that's my view. So when I say, look, China is not, it's got a window of another 5 years. After 5 years, the demographic problem will kick in, and this climate change, if it continues like this, will start kicking in. The effect will become multiplied. You'll see problems in China. You can keep this video. I mean, 5 years later, I don't know whether I'll be alive or not, but if I am, I will be 72 years old. Whether I don't know whether I'll even continue with Gunner Shot till then. But have a look at it. In 5 years, review as to where we are. Anyway, every year I'm going to update what's happened and then put it up. Okay. So this is what I had to tell you about all this. Day after tomorrow, we'll do Tibet. And then the week after that, I'll start off with population, demography, because these are both interconnected. With this, I'll take any questions which you have, and and then we'll call it a day. I could manage to finish it a little faster today. Okay. He says the CCP foot goal seems to be similar to how socialism operates, making everyone depend on the people in power to control them. Aren't we doing the same thing by giving freebies? Not really so. You have to understand that the level of poverty in India is far more than in China. Look what China did around the period, in the Deng Xiaoping era. They did a lot of good. They did a lot of good. The problem with China today is the Chinese Communist Party wants to control the people who have become well off. That's the problem. So they don't want to make them well off. They're retarding them back. But at the same time, from a power point of view, they want a rich state. So that is why productive forces, manufacturing, this, that, and all that. And they're having this problem of food and all that. Their method of control is completely different from ours. We don't have that kind of control, and we don't give freebies the way they give. Some states give, some states don't give. Okay, and some states give intelligently. It's not that every state gives. And then most politicians give it during elections, which is okay, fine. Yeah. I know one of my persons who works for me. Very simple. They go every time during elections. That whole family goes back to put their vote. Why? They say, look, when it's election time, that's the time when all political parties come and give us money. We take it happily and we vote for whom we want. Go be it. So they take all the freebies from them and vote for whom they want. So there is a different kind of a dynamic in India. You can't compare it with what's happening in CCP. In any case, food is not free in China. You have to buy. Okay. During the 2008 Olympics, we heard Chinese were able to blow the clouds away so that it doesn't rain. My question is, what happened now? Aren't they able to? Okay, you must understand. You see, what you do with the clouds is you put silver iodide in it. When you put silver iodide, the concentration of water vapor in the cloud increases because the silver iodide sucks in the water vapor in the cloud. It's called cloud seeding. And when the water vapor gets concentrated at a particular point, it bursts and there's a water drops. So if you do cloud seeding in an area, say a week, 10 days before the event is to take place, you'll have rain, and after that, during that event, you'll have no this thing. That's what they did. Alternately, if there's a dry season, but there is clouding and no rain, you do cloud seeding, then rain will come and give you relief. So you can do cloud seeding to ward off rain unseasonally, or ensure that you have rain-free days, or get rain. You can do both. So what they did was the first one. They did cloud seeding beforehand so that clouds don't form. It is not as if we वहाँ एक फैन ले जाओ और क्लाउड्स को भगा दो, वो नहीं हो सकता. Given the profile of these Chinese, what makes them think that they can rule the world and replace the USA as the global hegemon? If at all, Russia is a safer counterbalance. See, The point is, why has CCP come to this level? You have to understand. The guys who are uh, ruling the CCP, they are all they are not technocrats, or they are political politicians. Xi Jinping is a politician. Okay, at the end of the day, how much does he know about all this? And then there's always the balance between trying to achieve something for the country or not. So you have to show. You have to show a canal. You have to show a road. You have to show. Doesn't matter how that road behaves after that. How does it matter after 10 years if the road collapses? By then, Xi Jinping is finished his tenure and gone. That's the mentality of every politician. Doesn't it happen in India? आपने बना लिया अभी वोट ले लिया सबसे और 10 साल के बाद क्या किसने जाना वो रोड ठीक है कि नहीं. How many times have I remember in the northeast, so I went to a place and people said, "Sir, there's no electricity in our area." So I said, "Okay, come, let's see." I went to the district commissioner and I said, "Okay, why don't you electrify that area, put a project up, and I'll take it up with the government and all that." The district commissioner said, "Sir, please sit down. I'll show you a scheme." And that scheme, as per that scheme, we allotted money for the electrification of that area. We electrified that area, and then the money was spent. Then there was an inauguration of electrification in that area, and everything happened. Then I said, "What happened after that?" The moment that inauguration happened and finished and all, after 1 month, everything was wrapped up. The cables were wrapped up, the bulbs were wrapped up, the whole area lines were wrapped up and sold off by politicians. And today, what you go in an odd place, you will see those kambas standing. That's about all. That's the mentality of a politician. He says, now that that area is actually electrified, how can I sanction more money for your electrification? ये होता है हमारे इंडिया में. If but the same thing will happen in China also. Maybe they make it, and then climate will come and sort it out because they have not taken care to offset what's happening due to climate. It seems Indradev is very angry with China, giving them all types of weather at the same time. Well, Manoj, I don't know whether Indradev is happy or not, but this is our facts. These are things which have happened. I am not a chap who says, "Oh, climate change is coming or not coming. Might come, might not come." But I'm giving you analysis of what has happened, and based on what has happened, what will happen. Empirical. I might be wrong. Okay, I might be wrong. I might go wrong, but I don't think, because you track it from 20 to now to 24, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 5 years. We have the data. And it is not as if earlier it didn't happen. This would have happened, but no one, I don't know about it. Okay. Yeah. Sir, speaking of Brahmaputra, while going in a ferry across Majuli Jorhat, I kept witnessing the course of Brahmaputra going south. And for the last 4 years, it has taken 50 meters of land, sir. That's nothing much. It can take even more. Because when the Brahmaputra floods over, the valley is filled with water. And when the water recedes, the embankments itself change. So Brahmaputra is a change, a river which changes course. Okay, so it's not a thing which is 50 meters. Nothing. It should be actually more. Even that Majuli Island, which is in the center, that also changes its shape and size, incidentally. Yeah, they're an economic power. If you don't accept it, that's not. I'm not saying that's not. They are not an economic power. They are an economic power, Amitesh, but we don't know what's going to happen ahead. Sir, it is चले जो चांद तक नहीं तो शाम तक. Yeah. Yeah. Even if this Chinese had a Vastu Shastra equivalent in their scriptures, they destroyed it during the Cultural Revolution. Maybe the cause of their present circumstances. Yes, they stopped looking at their traditional values. It's only now that people are talking of traditional Chinese medicine and all that. But for good 50 to 60 years, they destroyed their own culture. And a lot of it is now lost. It's gone. So, okay, yeah, let me. Sergi, what is the game behind marketing fake PhDs and a few defense experiment nuclear? No, all this will not. We'll talk some other day. It's a waste of time. Ever seen a bunch of Chinese tourists at a free buffet? Scary if there's a food shortage. Yeah, okay. Yeah. If we don't industrialize, we will remain poor. Bihar, which is the least industrialized state, is top in India's list. How is that possible? Yes, it's a top for degradation, environmental degradation, gross domestic risk for climate change and environmental degradation. Don't forget that Bihar is prone to flooding, heavy flooding. Okay, uh, historically, that is why they said this Bihar. But the fact is, we need to industrialize. We need to industrialize intelligently. That's the point. Okay. So you're doing a great job by giving us intellectual knowledge without any masala like defense talk. Yeah, look, alternate media and def talks and all. See, uh, they're not professional. Let's be very clear about it. They might get a few professionals, and that lady in alternate media, she's sitting somewhere in South Africa or North Africa somewhere. Gambia, Shambia में बैठी है वो. That's why I stopped going to things. What does she know about all these things? Most of them are on hype, okay, not logic. Diff talks, फिर भी that chap has got some brains, but knowledge is something which comes from a lot of reading. You have to get good intellectual people to talk. Have you ever seen one guy coming here and talking nonsense? They won't. And if they do, I don't allow them here. Okay. Sir, do an episode on how can we not repeat the same mistakes that China did? How should we proceed? See, that's like preaching. What you're asking me to do is preach. So I have no problem in preaching, but there are a lot of things which we should not do, and a lot of things which we should do. For example, if you look, okay, there's something. Uh, oh, that's okay. That's fine, Amitesh. No, not an issue. What? Yeah. Now, see, there's certain things which we need to be proud of. You look at the Indira Gandhi Canal. When did we start this? 30 years back. In fact, more than that. It's a success. You changed uh, the complete uh, topography of Rajasthan from a state which had absolutely no water right down to Barmer, there is water. When you look at the Sardar Sarovar Dam, Narmada Sagar, and all, and you've taken water right up to the desert belt of Gujarat, that area of Tarparkar to the north. In fact, if those of you don't know, where the Indira Gandhi Canal finishes and where the Narmada Canal, the last one, goes, the difference is just about 80, 90 kilometers. The rest we've greened. It's a great, marvelous achievement. Now, what we have to do is interbasin water transfer from the Indus River to Ganges. And then there's surplus water there which is going to Pakistan. So if you do that, and then from the north-south water uh, transfer, which we have to do along the coast, you can't come through the Deccan Plateau. And the Deccan Plateau itself has a lot of water which you can trap. It is trapped water which you can use. If you know the Ganges belt, in the Ganges, a lot of water is taken away around Meerut and Yamuna Nagar and all water is taken away. What comes in Ganges is very little downstream. And in summer, Ganges is like a hardly has any water. Uh, Past Allahabad, maximum water, rather not Orai. That's where Chambal meets Ganges or Jamuna. I'm forgetting. Uh, Past that, it is Chambal which gives water in summer. And Chambal starts from the Deccan Plateau, Jhansi ke paas. So it's not as if the Deccan Plateau doesn't have water. It has water. You would have to use it intelligently. So you need to have a water system in which was made, by successive Congress governments then, but we could never implement it for whatever reason. Now this government is not even talking of it. If I have a problem with our government, they only want industrialization. The cost we are going to pay is huge. It's going to be very huge if we go blind. So there are methods of doing it. We have to build on our own models. People say industrialize the Northeast. If you industrialize the Northeast, you will spoil the complete ecology of Northeast. Yeah. Will this lead to the fall of Chinese civilization? As we know, it is said that the fall of Indus Valley was due to climate. Possible. Completely possible. Let's see how it unfolds. I can't predict. But the combination of climate change and demographic decline threatens the Chinese civilization. Yeah, coastal Andhra flooding was mitigated after funds were allocated proactively by the then CM, though he was from Telangana. Today there are no floods in the area. DVC. I agree with you. Srinivas, I agree with you. Krishna Jilla had a lot of this inundation. Okay. Good about 25-30 kilometers inland. Right? Uh, I remember that because my relatives who had land there, they said they came, they started consulting people as to what we can grow in saltwater inundated land and all that. I understand people have made a lot of effort. But what if, suppose tomorrow, due to climate change, sea levels rise and the tide level rises? You have problems. And Firbi, because of our low transformation from agricultural society to a industrialized society, our pace is slow. We are able to cope with this change. Like Orissa has coped with all storms beautifully. It doesn't happen. But just think, if a backward state like Orissa can get away by weathering those storms, why is not a developed uh, nation like China not able to mitigate all this damage? Isn't it? It's something to think of. Lovely in Ram Ram. So the Chinese cities are only good looking from outside and functionally well, they're badly designed. Yeah, I think so. You know, 5 years or 6 years back, Vishakhapatnam had a big, uh, storm in which a lot of damage happened in Vishakhapatnam. But after that, they have rebuilt, and rebuilt with mitigating effects. Now nothing happens in Vishakhapatnam. Now nothing happens in Cuttack and Bhubaneswar and the coast. But Chinese development, this, that, and all. You see what's happening. Beijing में क्या हुआ देखो. How do you offset the tidal wave? I've shown you the area. So it's bad. Okay, China is facing a bad situation, and that is why I feel that climate change is a leg. It's a shaky leg on which China is standing. Right. I do understand. This subject is boring. Very few people. That's why I have attended. It's more interesting to know what bloody Trump is doing. Okay, and how he'll sort out China, which whether he does or not, I don't know. I don't know whether Trump will sort out China or not, or Mr. Modi will sort him out, or Xi Jinping will sort us out. But I know one thing: climate change is sorting out China. That I'm very clear. With this, I'll stop for the day. Good evening. Have a great evening. Jai Hind. And tomorrow we'll meet again and we'll discuss general's jotting with General KJ Singh. Till then, good night and Jai Hind.